The Georgia Religious Freedom Restoration Act, SB 36, passed out of the State House of Representatives. When enacted, this bill will elevate religious freedom in Georgia from its current status, little protection, to a level comparable with freedom of speech. In other words, it will ensure that Christians and individuals of other faiths can live out and express their beliefs openly in public and not be at risk of prosecution by the state. What can states learn from what Georgia and others have done? Well, here now to discuss this, State Representative Houston Gaines. He's the vice chairman of the House Republican Caucus in Georgia and a key member of the team that got this legislation through the process. Vice Chairman Gaines, welcome to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so this legislation is passed both chambers, and I understand the governor is going to sign it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It did. It was a great day yesterday as the House gave final passage to the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And as you mentioned, this has been something that we've worked on for many years here in the General Assembly. And certainly want to thank the governor who, as you mentioned, is planning to sign this legislation. Senator Ed Setzler, who carried this in the Senate, and Representative Tyler Paul Smith, who carried this measure in the House. And certainly Speaker Burns, Lieutenant Governor Jones. This was a team effort to get this important bill over the finish line that has Georgia joining many other states that have already passed this measure that protects individuals and citizens and ensures our religious beliefs have the same protection as our other First Amendment rights. And so this measure is, to me, common sense. I mean, it's interesting how the left has tried to take this as some really far-fetched idea when, Bill Clinton signed this exact same bill into law in the 90s, and Barack Obama, as a state senator in Illinois, voted for this. It's common sense. I'm glad we got it done, and it's a great step forward for Georgia.
Yeah, Vice Chairman, I was having a conversation last week with Senator Setzler, the author of the bill, and a little puzzled that it took Georgia this long, because I think you're just like one of two southern states that does not have a RFRA. His explanation was, we really haven't had a problem until now in religious freedom being under assault. How so in Georgia? What are you seeing?
Well, you're right. I mean, I think the stat is we're one of the only state actually in the top 15 in which to do business that doesn't have a RFRA law. And so, and I believe it's 39 other states already have something similar in place. And so I do think we were behind on this. I'm glad we caught up, got this bill passed. And so I think, it was past time to get this bill done. And certainly Senator Setzler has been working on this for years and appreciate his great leadership to get this bill over the finish line as well.
Vice Chairman Gaines, I want to ask you another question. You guys have been pretty busy in this legislative session. In fact, you're so busy you forced the Democrats to walk out. They got tired yesterday. You were advancing legislation. And this I got to be slow. I want to be very clear about this because I think our viewers and listeners will be shocked. But you had legislation that would outlaw state spending on transgender treatments for prisoners, and the Democratic members of the House walked out in protest. Is that an overstatement, or is that what happened?
No, it's exactly what happened. It was unbelievable on a bill that, as you said, literally ensures that taxpayer money is not being used for criminals who are in our prisons, taxpayer money for criminals, for your tax dollars to pay for them to get sex change surgeries. And the Democrats walked out of the chamber in protest over this bill. Only 4 Democrats stayed in the chamber. 2 of them actually voted for it, and 2 voted against it. And I respect the members who actually had the courage to sit there and vote, and appreciate the 2 Democrats who voted for it. But this is so common sense. I bet you 95% of people would agree with this measure. This is so common sense, literally not allowing prisoners to use your tax money to pay for their sex change surgeries. That's about as common sense as it gets, and the Democrats literally walked out of the chamber in protest over this measure. This was yesterday all day in the chamber. We voted on RFRA. We voted on this measure. We passed a number of important bills this week, and including yesterday the Riley-Gaines Act that ensures boys aren't competing in girls' sports and that boys aren't in girls' locker rooms in our state. it was a great week, but it showed the clear contrast between Georgia House Republicans and Georgia House Democrats. The Democrats are just out of line with the American people. And I think yesterday was a perfect example of why November went the way it did. It was a landslide because the Democrats are clearly out of touch with the American public and certainly with Georgia voters.
Yeah, I normally don't do this, but this is so twisted. I want to quote the House Democratic Caucus Chair, Tanya Miller of Atlanta, who, this is what she said when she walked out. She said, quote, "What is going on with my colleagues that they've become obsessed with what is happening in transgender citizens' pants and their underwear and their bedrooms and their medical robes when they talk to their doctors, when they deal with their families," end quote. Well, I mean, if they're asking you to pay for it, it becomes your issue. And that's what you're dealing with. And when you're talking about criminals, I mean, when you have the working poor that don't have access to certain things, and you have people who have committed crimes and they're in our prisons, and you're going to fund these elective surgeries, this is insane.
It really was beyond insane to watch in person. I think our whole caucus sat there in amazement, and and part of me wants to thank the Democrats for showing just how out of touch they are with the American public on this issue. Because I can tell you again, this is a 90-10 issue, maybe 95-5 issue and this is not a Republican issue. This is just common sense. Right. That again, your tax money shouldn't be paying for criminals to get an elective sex change surgery. Is crazy.
Representative Houston Gaines, I want to thank you for joining us. Congratulations to all of you for the great work you've done this week, and especially for the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Look forward to seeing the governor sign that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.